Views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network.
Welcome back with Let's Talk Money with KC. I'm KC from KC Baker and Associates, and I'm your host for today. We have some amazing information to give you today. Let me just kind of go over the purpose of the show. Let's Talk Money with KC. It's all about creating wealth for you and your family. It's all about how you have those 6 or 7 or 5 streams of income. The purpose of the show is to give you as much information about money as possible, as much information as I can about business. Being in business is like what everybody is aspiring to do and to be. So today, our show is going to be on business transitioning and business continuation, meaning business owners who own their businesses planning for the future. So I pulled up some information offline and a couple of carriers, just kind of going over what business transitioning is. So I'm going to read this from a very great source. Business transitioning. A big portion of your retirement plan is probably depending on selling your business. Now, a lot of people probably don't even think about selling their business, or what happens if something happens to you and you can't do your business anymore. With a carefully crafted business transition plan, you can help meet your retirement goals and successfully transfer your business. Even if you're not depending on your business for retirement, you may be planning for an ultimate transition to a family member. A business transition plan may include a buy-sell agreement with your co-owners that outlines the term of the sale, including triggering events and how and when the sale price will be paid. If you plan to have a family member take over your business, the buy-sell agreement should be a bona fide agreement. In all family transfer situations, a professional valuation or appraisal is highly recommended to establish an independent, fair market value of the business. So now, if you are going to sell your business interest at retirement, you may be concerned about these 5 areas. Determining how and when the purchase price will be paid, minimizing tax consequences, improving the credit worthiness of the business, leaving the business in a good financial shape for the future owner, being sure that the purchaser will have the funds to complete the buyout. Now, if you plan to sell this to a family member to take over the business, you may also be wondering these 3 things. How long do I need to stay for the successful transition? Are they familiar enough with the business and ready to take over management? What about my children? How are they involved? How much were they involved? Do I need to bring them up to speed? Were they up there with me as the business was going? So this just gives you a little bit of information about business transitioning. Now, sales between family members are often subject to more scrutiny by the IRS, so you really do have to be careful. More specifically, the IRS may question the sale price and the valuation method. If the price is determined to be higher or lower than the fair market value, the sale may be recharacterized as a part sale, part gift transition, resulting in a potential gift tax liability or inclusion of a portion of the sale price in the seller's gross estate. So we have to make sure that when you are thinking about planning for the future, that you are in contact with your attorney, your accountant. You know, some people may even go and get a mergers and acquisition company to help them, go through all of this. So it's just giving you some ideas. Now, as far as the business continuation, have you ever taken the steps to ensure that your business will continue to run smoothly if you lose a business partner? Okay? Have you considered what will happen in the event of a divorce, disability, or even worse than that, death? So a buy-sell agreement can establish the value of your business and assure that there is a buyer for the business and improve the credit worthiness of the business. Now think of the buy-sell agreement as a formal exit. Okay, that's your formal exit strategy that ensures everyone is treated fairly. The business is in a position to continue and the family is well cared for. Now, with a buy-sell agreement, the business owners enter into an agreement today that sets out the terms and the conditions of the sale of the business interest at some point in the future. Now, these terms and conditions may include, but of course are not limited to, who will purchase the interest, what triggers the buyout, when the sale will take place, the value of the interest, how the purchase price will be paid. So, listening to all of this, when I talk to business owners, I ask these specific questions because in planning for retirement, this is a big piece. Is your business in a place where you already have someone? Is it where it has residual income and you already have your family members in place? And to give you an example, for me, the business that I own, it's a residual business. So my children actually are already a part of it. So if something happens to me, it continues on. They just take it over and they continue on with the business. But that's not everybody's situation. So what we want to do is we want to plan. You have to plan. Life happens. And when life happens, you don't know the day nor the hour that something may happen. So as a business owner and a person who, if you're the head of the household, you want to make sure that your family is taken care of. If you have a partner, you want to make sure that they are taken care of. So today I'm so excited because what's going to happen, I have a young lady here. And I'm excited that she is willing to share with us what she did to sell her business. And everybody is different. Everyone doesn't take the same steps. They don't take the same process, the same procedures, the processes to actually do their business. But I thought it would be great to share with my viewers the process that she took. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to commercial. And then after the commercial, I'm going to introduce Connie Fuksa. And at that point, I'm going to ask her questions and find out a little bit about her and see how she did it and how she went through the processes. And then at that point, find out what she's doing today. So bear with us. Stay tuned. We'll be back as soon as this commercial airs. Hello, my name is Karen Baker, founder and owner of Casey Baker & Associates. Casey Baker & Associates focuses on promoting financial security through ensuring financial wellness. Our vision is to foster financial wellness by serving the community, teaching wealth-building strategies to all communities, and developing mentorship programs for the young individuals. Casey Baker & Associates takes an educational approach so that everyone in the community can understand the concepts that help to improve financial literacy. As a financial advisor with over 2 decades of experience, I plan to use my expertise to serve you and your financial wellness needs. I am an established author of business and financial articles. This includes writing articles for It's Your Business Quarterly magazine for over 10 years. I also served as the ambassador for the Prince George's County Chamber of Commerce for many years. I am a certified financial education instructor and business leader who is ready to work with you and the wealth-credentialed Casey Baker & Associates team to help you achieve your financial goals. Join us so we can help you, like we have helped thousands of others by connecting with us at www.caseybakerandassociates.com. Welcome back to Let's Talk Money with Casey, and I'm Casey, your host for today from Casey Baker and Associates, founder and CEO of Casey Baker and Associates, and we are a financial brokerage firm. Today, I am so excited about bringing you my guest today, who is going to talk about how her process of selling her business. So the content today is business continuation and business transitioning. So I would love to introduce Connie Fuksa.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you so much for coming on and sharing the whole process of you selling your business. So Connie, first, tell us a little bit about you.
So, as you said, I sold my business a little over a year ago. That was, after doing the same thing for 32 years, that was a big change for me.
Okay.
I sort of had some ideas. I thought about what I wanted to do, but the business sale happened very quickly, so I didn't have a whole lot of things in place.
Okay.
And I had, a little bit of time to think about it. Having owned a business for more than 30 years, I wanted to help other small businesses or starting businesses with growing their business. And so I knew I wanted to go into that area. But as life would have it, some other things happened too. And it's kind of strange. And so now I also sell Mary Kay Skincare, which is super fun and exciting and totally different. But I help a lot of people on my team as well. So sort of the same kind of thing in some of the similar kind of ways. And see, I've been married to my husband for a little over 28 years, and I have a son who's in the Navy, and two pups and a grandpup.
Okay. So tell us about how your business was started and how its leadership and ownership was structured.
Sure. So my business it was a family business. My mom started our business over 32 years ago, back in 1986.
Okay.
And at that time, I was working in another industry. She asked me to come in and help out. And I would help out in the evenings and weekends. I knew nothing about the business, but was really just a family member helping out. And as she was able to build the business, she was able to afford me, as she likes to call it.
Okay.
And so took me on. I was working in D.C. at the time, so took me on, and I worked in the business for a few years. And as I continued to grow and learn more, I wanted to do more, and she wanted to do less. And so she transitioned out, and so that became me. Our business, like I said, it was a family business, but it was structured as a C Corp back then. And it was before LLCs and things like that became popular. So it was a corporation, and that was kind of instrumental, I found later, in what we were doing when we went to sell. But
Okay. So tell me then, what does the business entity, how does that matter in selling?
Right. So, and not being an accountant, I can tell you what my accountant told me. The business entity determines how the IRS is going to look at you with the sales price and taxing that business. So there are two different types of corporations: S Corp, C Corp.
Right.
One, when you sell your business, the IRS taxes you personally on that income and the business on that income.
Yes.
If the other corporation entity, it only taxes the business income and that sale. And so we didn't know that at the time when we started the business, or when she started the business. That was not. I don't know that the rules maybe weren't that way. I'm not really sure that detail. I think so.
Yeah.
And so it was a better setup to do it the initial way that it was done, but never ever thinking about when we sold it how that would affect us. And so on the advice of my accountant, we made some changes. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough time. I didn't have a plan to sell, but in forecasting that potentially was going to happen, we made a change. But there's some time limit that IRS has some rules. And again, I'm not an accountant, but my understanding was that had to be 5 years from when you made that change from one type of corporation to the other. Before, if you sold in that time period, then you were still categorized in the previous way. So when we made that change, I think we were 3 years into it when we sold the business. So.
Okay. So now, your business was a family-owned business. When did the actual doors open for your company?
1986.
1986.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then how long were you in the business from 1986 to about?
I was in 1987 and until I sold last year. My mom transitioned out about 5 years into the business once I learned what I was doing.
Okay.
And she started transitioning out from there, and I took over. She did some work for me behind the scenes, but most of it was transitioning out and just helping out with some things outside of the business.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then what size was your business? Number of employees?
So in the type of business I had, that is very cyclical because of the real estate industry. But at the highest point, I think we had 15 people, and at the lowest point, we had 2.
Okay.
Not lowest, that's probably the wrong term. At the smallest point, we probably had 2. And it would fluctuate some, but I think the average was usually between 5 and 10 people.
Okay, so because of your industry, and again, I just want the audience to know that you owned a title company.
That's correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So from there, what made you consider being ready to sell?
I'm not sure in my case, there was a magic answer to that, other than our industry there's a lot of rules and a lot of scrutiny because of the required bonds and the required licenses and insurances that we have to carry, and because of the protection to the customers that we do closings for. And so because of, as we all know, the internet is a great thing, but it created the ability for a lot of opportunity for fraud, and that started to change a lot.
Okay.
And so I don't necessarily know that I was ready to sell. It's one of those industries that's very active and has a lot of stressful points is probably the best part. And so we always say in our industry, if you're in it for any period of time, you must really love it, because it is a very stressful job. This particular day of the month in the title world is very busy, the last day of the month. And so because everybody wants to close that day. So it's a real stressful business.
Okay.
And so if you're in it for any period of time, you must really love it. But it gets to the point at some point, like any other business, that you think about, maybe there's something else that I might like to do.
Right.
And so if an opportunity came around, but I wasn't actively selling my business when that happened. I had a couple conversations with different people before that were asking me if I had any interest.
Gotcha. So now, during this whole process, did you market the business? Did you market it for sale, or it just kind of happened?
No, I didn't market it for sale. And as I said, I was thinking, one day when I am ready to sell, I wonder what I would do next. And interestingly enough, after the housing crash, that, again, being in that particular industry, we're very much affected by those things in the market. And so as that happened, as we started to come out of that, my understanding was, I started to be contacted by people.
Okay.
And it was kind of strange, because I thought, wow, this has never happened before. I wonder what's causing this to happen.
Right.
And so my understanding was that as businesses came out of the housing crash, the slowdown, the crisis, whatever the terminology is you choose, that there was a lot of title companies that didn't survive that crisis. And then the ones that did looked very promising to people that might want to get in the industry. So I was approached several different occasions, and I had another opportunity that wasn't the one that I ended up taking, but and it was a very active opportunity.
Okay.
I had a gentleman who owns several companies around the DC metro area contact me and wanted, and the way he was structuring the plan seemed like it would be, probably could be pretty good for us.
Right.
Honestly, instead of selling and walking away, it kept me on and doing some other things, which was kind of interesting.
Right.
And the way they were structuring it, I thought, well, this, I wasn't quite ready. At least I didn't think so, to walk away.
Okay.
And so I thought, wow, that sounds like it might work, right? And I could do things a little different. And then maybe some of the liability and, maybe some of the stress is a little different. I can do a little more mentoring of the other team members and those kinds of things. Unfortunately, that didn't end up working out because the deal changed as it was going through the conversation, and it wasn't the best setup for me, and so I didn't end up going along with that program. But into your question, I didn't market at all, and I really just started being approached, and I think it had to do with where the economy was and what was going on. That was my understanding going out that way.
Got it. Okay. So now, how did you determine, because I talked about this before the commercial, how did you determine the valuation of your business, and was there a company actually that you went to help you determine the value, the market value, fair, high, low?
Right, really, really good question, because as you and I were talking about before, the problem with this is, all I did was my job, and I ran my company, took care of my employees, and having never really thought about this, oh my gosh, how do you even know what to do? I mean, it's a really scary kind of thing, because you're a very intelligent, thoughtful person doing your job in your industry, but this is getting into a totally different
totally
arena.
Different.
That's right.
Like
and
mergers,
you also have to be...
Yeah, like mergers and acquisitions type of thing.
Absolutely. And you have to be very divorced from the emotion of it as well, which is very difficult. I have to be honest and tell you, after, a long time, that's a challenge. So before I actually was approached about selling the business, a friend of mine, a business friend of mine, had purchased another title company locally. And so we met afterwards and had some conversation about it. And I said, gosh, how did you even know? Just like we're having this conversation, how did you know where to go, what to do, how to know what to pay for it? That's correct. And so she actually introduced me to a gentleman that is an accountant, but that's what he does for a living. And so I sat down with him and we went through everything from soup to nuts. It was very, very intricate, but actually very helpful, because it made me look at things a little bit differently. Not necessarily how I ran my business, but it made you maybe almost sort of budgeting when you do your own type of financial planning and budgeting. It made me think about things a little bit more like that, instead of day-to-day operations and long-term operations for my business, for me. So it was kind of an interesting experience, but it was well before I ever was approached to sell. But we did go through the whole process, and it took some time, several months. And the wonderful thing that he did share with me is, after he looked at it all, he said, I'm really pleased with looking at your company and how it's run, and the numbers are great, and I love how your books look, and it'll be very appealing when you're ready to do it. So that made me feel good, because that's the piece, who knows, right?
That's the piece
You're
that
a small
really matters.
business, how do you know?
I
mean, I know it's working for me, I know it's working for my family,
I
know it's working for my employees, but what does it look to someone on the outside of the world?
On the outside,
so
looking at it.
So I do think it's a very good exercise to experience. It's not cheap. I mean, it's a little bit expensive, but it's worth it, because you definitely get a pulse on the outside picture of your business, which is really important if you ever want to consider even just the family transition side.
Most definitely.
Yep.
Okay, so now, how did you know what should be contained in the sales contract?
Luckily, I have an attorney that I do a lot of work with through my business.
The attorney.
Right. And so having an attorney, of course, is very important. Just as important as having an accountant,
Definitely.
And the attorney, even if it's just someone for just legal advice about questions that you may have, you need to have somebody that you trust and that you know on your payroll or on your retainer.
Right.
And so when I was approached, the time that did actually come to fruition, the person that purchased the company had a lot of business experience and was actually a college graduate in a business kind of environment, a very intensive business environment. And he also had been out west and had done a lot of mergers and acquisitions for other companies, and now had his own company. So he was very savvy, and honestly, it was a little bit kind of daunting, because I was... we all think things, right? And so I said, well, gosh, I know how to do title inside and out, and I know how to run my business, but I don't know how to do this, and I'm not sure what. So what would happen is he would send me documentation, and I would review it and then make my notes, and then I contacted my attorney and said, all right, now I need you to go. And thank goodness I had that, because he would bring up things that were sections that I didn't understand. I understood the words, but I didn't understand what the ramifications were if I didn't structure it the way that I would be the best benefit for me.
Right. So that's why you definitely have to have your advisors. So that's why, like you said, having your attorney and having your accountant.
Correct.
Was there any other advisors that you kind of went to other than the attorney and the accountant for negotiations?
For negotiations, no, other than I have to put a shameless little plug in for my mom, because I tell you that my mom started our business. My mom is a very smart business lady and kept me very on track, and she was always a good advisor. And so when we did this, she always gave me the voice of sense, of, sometimes you may be thinking a little bit outside the box too far.
Right.
And she would reel me in. Or sometimes she would say, you're not thinking big enough. Right. I need you to think a little bit bigger. So she was just, so if I had to say to a business owner, who would be in your circle, definitely your accountant. And if you don't have one, you need one. Even if you do your own books, you need somebody that does do that kind of thing for you, that gives you that sense. I mean, he helped me with the whole change in the corporation and the IRS thing, which I would have never known. And it, that's a huge tax difference, right?
Difference.
Right, exactly. And how I would have no way of knowing that.
That's a huge difference.
Correct.
And what you guys have to understand is that the accountant that she used was someone that they were used to doing this specific type of view of the book. So every accountant, I would say that you would have to go to a specialist. It's just like, a doctor, that's specializing in X, Y, and Z. You need to make sure that whoever you're reaching out to specializes in selling businesses, mergers, acquisitions, negotiating contracts, buy-sell agreements and all that. They need to be very affluent in that area, only because you want to have an eye, a special eye that's looking at all of these documents, the ramifications, what this means versus that, the terminology. And even though as savvy business people,
that's right.
When you're talking about specifics and contracts, you may not know ultimately what the fine print means. So don't think you're going to save $1 because you can end up screwing yourself in the long run.
Hugely.
Just like you just said, dealing with the tax implications, being C Corp or S Corp,
And, in the tax arena, not only just that, but negotiating things like what, we had a service business, so we didn't have inventory, but we had all kinds of equipment and things. And so how does that look in your contract, and how much of your sales price goes to the value of the property, and how much of it goes to the equipment and supplies that you have, and how much of it goes to these different areas. Those are tax ramifications as well. And so very important to have somebody who maybe that isn't their full-time job is the accountant of selling a business, but somebody who's very well versed on what those steps look like and can definitely guide you in that direction, because your attorney is very important with the logistics of that contract. But just as important, my accountant and my attorney and I were very fluid conversations regularly.
A lot. I was going to say a lot. So, I didn't ask you this off, before we started, but if there's anyone out there who is thinking about selling or buying and they need access to an accountant or an attorney, you can reach out to me. I'll talk to Connie afterwards to see if she can refer you guys, because I think it's important that when you're dealing with something of this magnitude, you want to make sure that the person that's sitting in front of you, that you really have a reference point of, oh yeah, okay, I heard about this. Connie used it, it worked. She's happy. She's in a place where it's okay. So if you want information, please feel free to email me at Karen@CaseyBakerandAssociates.com. Karen@CaseyBakerandAssociates.com. That way, we're here to share the information. The platform is here specifically to help. Yeah. And I think this is really critical and crucial, because I know of several business owners, one that just died, and he did not have any of this together. And so the family is scrambling. When I tell you they are scrambling, they don't know where the documents are. They don't know what he had in place. Life insurance, that, he did have a partner. The partner didn't even know. So we have to make sure that we're prepared, because we just don't know. And it's not an age thing. Guys, you have to understand, it's not an age thing, because people are getting sick. People are getting hit by cars, people are having accidents, people are dying, and they're under 40. They own businesses. So don't look at this as, oh, you know what, I have time, because you don't know how much time, unless you have a beeline to God, you don't know how much time you have. So we're going to go to commercial now. I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask Connie some more questions. Again, if you have any idea of you're thinking that you want to go into this planning for your business continuation, business succession planning, email me at Karen@CaseyBakerandAssociates.com so that I can get the information from Connie on her attorney as well as her accountant. Okay, so we'll be right back. Hello, my name is Karen Baker, founder and owner of Casey Baker and Associates. Casey Baker and Associates focuses on promoting financial security through ensuring financial wellness. Our vision is to foster financial wellness by serving the community, teaching wealth-building strategies to all communities, and developing mentorship programs for the young individuals. Casey Baker and Associates takes an educational approach so that everyone in the community can understand the concepts that help to improve financial literacy. As a financial advisor with over 2 decades of experience, I plan to use my expertise to serve you and your financial wellness needs. I am an established author of business and financial articles. This includes writing articles for It's Your Business Quarterly magazine for over 10 years. I also served as the ambassador for the Prince George's County Chamber of Commerce for many years. I am a certified financial education instructor and business leader who is ready to work with you and the wealth-credentialed Casey Baker and Associates team to help you achieve your financial goals. Join us so we can help you, like we have helped thousands of others by connecting with us at www.CaseyBakerandAssociates.com. Welcome back to Let's Talk Money with KC. I'm Casey with Casey Baker and Associates, and today we're talking about business continuation and business success planning. Today, my guest, Connie Fuksa, has been so gracious to come on and go over the process that she went through when she sold her business. We talked about a lot of different things. I normally do a little recap, but we've talked about so much. I'm going to continue on with the interview and the questions. So if you've missed it, and if you know someone that is going through this or thinking about it, please, if you're looking at this through Facebook, share it, like it, call your folks and let them know to come on WBGR Now Live. Of course, it's taped so that you can go back. This is really important, guys. This is something that a lot of business owners don't think about it. They're in the day-to-day grind, and if you have employees, it's all about making sure that you have enough business so that you can make payroll. You're just like that little gerbil on that wheel. You just are continuing it on. But this is a part of your generational wealth. And so you don't want to drop the ball and leave it for family members who were not in the business to kind of scurry after you are either disabled, hurt, or worse, you've gone home to glory and then nobody knows what to do. So really, when the business is flourishing, this is something that you could actually put in your budget to do, and make sure that you have someone on retainer, your attorney and your accountant, to help you get through this. So we're here with Connie Fuksa, who sold her business about a year ago. And so I'm going through some questions to kind of give you guys some ideas of how this process works. It's different for everyone. She owned a title company, so it's going to be different, but at least you get the gist of how intense really it is, and knowing that you have someone that you can rely on and trust to help you get through this process. So the next question would be, was there a non-disclosure agreement signed before the negotiations began?
Absolutely. But the one thing I will tell you about that is I told you guys before, I had a couple different opportunities to sell my business.
Okay.
And not all of them came out with that. And
Okay.
honestly, as you said, I'm running my business. I'm trying to work to make sure my payroll is made because my employees are like family and I got to
Right.
make sure they get paid. So I'm very busy doing that. And I'm not thinking about the fact that I should be careful because the person I'm talking to is gathering information about my business that maybe could become
Yes.
competitor information,
Yes.
which is something you got to be careful of. So when the first time I was approached, luckily I did get
Okay.
a non-disclosure. Somebody offered that right up without me having to ask about
Okay,
it.
okay.
And so of course, I would have asked my attorney, what should I be doing first before releasing any information? But before you even speak to anybody, you should have a non-disclosure because anything you say is now part of this agreement. And if you don't, there's nothing that binds them from sharing your
That's
private
right.
information.
Right. And that's scary.
Even something as simple as, just some of the tricks of your trade or some marketing ideas or any of that is really important. So
Exactly. So now, once the contract was signed, how did you begin preparing for your business for this transition?
So I, many years ago, probably, I'm not even sure, let's say 15 years ago, maybe 10, I had a key employee leave. And very key employee. And it was a very difficult loss to my business because I had gotten to the point, if you're a business owner, you're going to understand this better than anybody. But a lot of people outside of the business, when the business owner isn't visual, the people outside of the business think that business owner is off jet setting to Key West or Bahamas or whatever.
Exactly.
And absolutely that's not true in most cases. Certainly there's exceptions to all the rules, but and in this particular case, I wasn't as visually active in the day-to-day that people saw me. This key employee was.
Okay.
And so what happened is that key employee decided to leave and start her own business. Phenomenal of her to be able to do that, but the hard part was I wasn't prepared because she was doing a lot of the day-to-day stuff. I was doing all the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Okay.
And so it was a very tough loss on our business, and so I wasn't prepared for everybody being fluid in everything.
Okay.
And it was a
Okay.
really good lesson about, number one, not making the business about me, because everyone on the outside thought, wow, that person left, so now your business isn't going to work.
Right.
And which absolutely wasn't true because I wasn't going to the Bahamas and all of those things at that
Right,
point.
right.
But because people didn't see me, since I was in a service business, a lot of people thought that person did all of the work. And so when that person left, some of those questions came up and that became very difficult. So I had to learn at that point to be more, to make the business less about me.
Okay.
So I made the business more about itself
Right.
and had to really start educating the public about my business and how it worked
Right.
and what it did on its own without me. Not that I wasn't present, but that the business could run without me being sitting at the closing table.
Right.
And so that was really important because I know it sounds kind of coy, but if the business is about you and you go to sell the business, then someone's not going to want to buy your business because it can't function without you.
Right. And so really, this is a key point in any business, whether you're getting ready to sell or not. You have to make sure that multiple employees can do the same thing.
That's correct.
So, wearing many hats in a small business, family-owned business, even in corporations, because I can remember many years ago, in training the staff, it's definitely beneficial for the business so that everybody pretty much knows how to do all the main things in the business. And most business owners that I've spoken to, they don't do that.
Yes,
They have one person for this, they have one person for that, they have one person for this. When that person leaves, they're scurrying, trying to figure out how to do that person's job. Nobody really knows. That's not really a good way to manage your business. The workflow, everybody should be able to do it. That was a hard lesson for me like 25 years ago. Just in management, period, making sure that it makes your job easier, the manager, the owner, of the business, to make sure that if one person drops, you just put another person in that place.
That's correct.
So this is something that's way beyond business transitioning and business succession planning. That's something that should happen on a day-to-day anyway, because time is money. You know, when you're talking about hiring, and I'm going off a little bit, you know, the beaten path, but just to say, when you're talking about hiring people, you don't know if that new employee is going to work out. You don't know if they're going to fit the environment. You just don't know. You don't know if that person's going to stay or not. So that's something that you need to be doing consistently all the time anyway.
Well, and on the heels of that, you know, just not only the employees being able to do different things, but making sure that that business doesn't revolve around you or your name.
That's right.
Because if it does, then it can't succeed.
Without
because
you.
if you know, and even if you don't sell a business, if you pass, then that business, everybody on the outside world thinks that business no longer exists because you passed.
Right.
So it's more of a perception, unfortunately, but it's a real perception.
Exactly. Okay, so now what about your employees? Did you tell them about the sale? I mean, when did all of that conversation come up?
So difficult.
Because it's family.
That's correct. And, you know, and the difficult part about it is you just don't know. When you have a business and you are going to sell it to someone else, you just don't know what's going to happen, you know. And so in my case, I had a confidentiality agreement that I had to sign that said I wouldn't tell anyone that this was happening, because the new person, other than my spouse, and because the new person wanted to make sure that it was a seamless transition, everybody just moved over, and it works that way. And so if people knew, then people could make plans. Maybe somebody moves and goes to another company, or maybe the outside public then has an opinion. Oh my, the company's not going to function the same when Connie leaves, that type of thing. And so no, I had to sign a confidentiality agreement.
Okay.
And I didn't tell anyone until the morning of the transition.
Sale.
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah, he was there and we did the sale. It
my
was just
God,
tough. That was really tough.
That was like...
It was really tough.
Because it's like family.
Yeah, that was really tough. Luckily, our negotiations didn't last too long, but still, I mean, it was very tough.
Wow. Okay.
It's a hard spot. I mean, and a lot of people didn't understand it.
Of course.
But when you sign a confidentiality agreement, that's a legal agreement.
It's a binding agreement.
That's correct.
You can't go back on it.
The whole thing would have fallen apart, and I could have been sued.
Yeah,
you know.
Exactly. Okay, so now how long was it between the contract signature and the closing?
In this particular deal, very short period of time. The deal that didn't end up working out was a lot longer because there was a lot more moving parts. Honestly, this was a very clean, simple transition. And even some negotiations that we had in the contract were not that intense because it was pretty comprehensive from the very beginning.
Okay.
So we signed the contract 5 months later, we were at closing.
Wow.
And that's a little tough in the title world because there's a lot of moving parts. In the title world, you know, we have to transition all of our agreements with our underwriters, the licenses, you know, all of that. And we were licensed in several states. So all of those government entities had to buy in. So, and actually some of those things knew before, you know, it was actually general public knowledge because we had to get some of that stuff fluidly in the works before we could actually pass the keys.
Wow. So here again, preparing, making sure, you know, the show I've talked about, you know, life insurance, retirement planning, even, you know, first time home buying and the process there, credit. You know, I hope to actually have, you know, an attorney on the show eventually. We can talk about this a little bit further, an accountant. We have to prepare as business owners.
Absolutely.
We really have a responsibility, not only to our staff, not only to really yourself to have the business continue on, but your family. We really do. We have a responsibility to make sure that if something happens to us, that the business can continue on, whether it's, you know, you decide to retire or you got sick or God forbid, you know, you went home to glory. This is a hard thing to stop your day-to-day grind and think about. But if you don't do it, then the people you leave behind are really going to suffer. And I have to say, you know, I've seen this just recently within the last 2 months. This is why I said I needed to do this show, because I'm just trying to give you as much information as I possibly can surrounding wealth building. your businesses, the processes, who to contact, whether it's an attorney, whether it's an accountant. So this falls in line with my business viewers. Make sure you plan and you plan accordingly. So again, I am Casey with Casey Baker and Associates with my amazing guest Connie Fuksa, and she's going over her the process she went through to sell her business. And we are going to go to commercial, and as soon as we are back, we will finish and continue the interview. So we'll be right back. Hello, my name is Karen Baker, founder and owner of Casey Baker and Associates. Casey Baker and Associates focuses on promoting financial security through ensuring financial wellness. Our vision is to foster financial wellness by serving the community, teaching wealth-building strategies to all communities, and developing mentorship programs for the young individuals. Casey Baker and Associates takes an educational approach so that everyone in the community can understand the concepts that help to improve financial literacy. As a financial advisor with over 2 decades of experience, I plan to use my expertise to serve you and your financial wellness needs. I am an established author of business and financial articles. This includes writing articles for It's Your Business Quarterly magazine for over 10 years. I also served as the ambassador for the Prince George's County Chamber of Commerce for many years. I am a certified financial education instructor and business leader who is ready to work with you and the wealth-credentialed Casey Baker and Associates team to help you achieve your financial goals. Join us so we can help you, like we have helped thousands of others by connecting with us at www.caseybakerandassociates.com. Welcome back with Let's Talk Money with Casey. I'm Casey with Casey Baker and Associates. I have a financial brokerage firm, and I am so excited today where we are talking about business continuation, business succession planning, and my amazing guest, Connie Fuksa, who actually is sharing her experience of selling her home. I don't know why I'm selling your home, selling your business. About a year and a half ago. So we're going through these questions, and the next question to you is, once the closing happened, did you stay on the transition with the business to the new business owner, and how long were you there?
Yeah, so I did.
Okay.
Interesting question, because as I said to you earlier, I had some different opportunities to sell, and all of those contracts looked a little bit different, those thoughts and requirements. So in one of the opportunities I had, it was clearly, here are the keys, walk away. Another one that I probably was very actively involved in was that I would stay on, as I said, and maybe do some other things. And I was going to stay on as an advisor or employee kind of set up for quite a while. It wasn't an ending. It was just a contractual arrangement that was a little bit different. But in this case, it was, we were selling and I was going to walk away, but I did have to stay on for 6 months in transition. As I said to you a little bit earlier, especially being a family business, it was difficult. It was difficult emotionally because it just was my business, and I had been doing it for so long that was difficult. It was difficult people-wise because as part of the structure, I then became an employee, so that was a little bit different. And then my employees were obviously not the happiest about the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
It was a big change because the new owner handled things very differently than I did. So it was a big change. And that was a little bit difficult too. And then, one thing I will say, being a business owner and then changing your status within the same company as an employee was very difficult. So you have to be prepared to totally divorce yourself from that emotional side of that business. And that was probably the toughest. And it really had nothing to do with anything other than my emotions, and that those steps, those processes just were very different because I no longer called the shots. And so when things were going a little haywire, I had to get approval and look at different things. And so it was very different because you have a new owner who, wants to run their business. And so that was difficult. And it was just challenging in my own head because when something went awry in my business, I stepped in and we, had some pretty specific direction on how that happened. So
Right.
it was a transition that was a little bit different than I expected it to be.
That I can't even imagine that, because now the employers are looking at you like, really?
Right.
And you didn't say anything, and now you're here working side by side, and we've got this other person here who is shaking things up because it's not comfortable now because they're used to you.
That's right.
And they're used to you running the business, your way. They're used to, your process. So I can imagine that was an ordeal that, to say the least, trying to take yourself away from it emotionally would be hard because you're looking at them.
Yeah,
and
sure.
they grew with you.
Yeah, this is your family.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was definitely tough.
Wow. Okay, so did you plan for what the next thing was after the sale?
I really didn't, because as I said, I wasn't really, I had in my mind that one day I would sell, and maybe some things I like to do, and I had dabbled in some various different things. I developed a customer service software that I ended up selling that was kind of neat because we didn't have something that was specific in the title world. And,
Okay.
a lot of the brain thoughts that I had and brainchild creations were things that were around the title world, because that's all I've done for a really long time.
Right.
And so some things that might have been lacking. And what I really was starting to do was do more mentoring of title company owners, because
Okay.
I had been doing it for a long time, and
Right.
I definitely knew their pain points, and I definitely knew where things were lacking.
Right.
And it's one of those industries where there's not a lot of collaboration between businesses, and
Right.
so that was I was really passionate about that. And so I sort of had some of that in my play. I really wanted to pull back a little bit from that kind of
Okay.
day-to-day title
Okay.
world and
Okay.
do more mentoring, coaching kind of thing.
Okay, so you're still doing that mentoring, coaching?
I'm doing
kind of?
less of it with title people and more
Okay.
of it with other business owners.
businesses.
Yeah, I have several small business owners or startup entrepreneurs that I've been working with that,
Okay.
we're just talking about how do you run your business? How do you build a team? How
Right.
do you start doing some of these things? And yeah, it's been a lot of fun because, I certainly have some experience with some of that.
Right, so then you're not retired, I'm assuming. You're continuing on to work and help other business owners and, just, helping. It's about giving back. We talked about that earlier. It's about, being transparent and helping, because business is up and down, up and down, up and down. Being able to put different processes in place depending on what type of business you have. But the core of the business, it doesn't matter if you're a title company or a broker or a real estate agent, the core of the business still needs to operate the same way.
That's correct.
What resources do you recommend while going through a business sale?
I definitely, as we talked about before, I would either locate a accountant that is specializes in doing these kinds of things, so you can get a real pulse on what's going on. I think if I could tell you anything that I did that I totally did kind of by accident, because it really wasn't part of that sale initially, was to speak to someone that specializes in this area of expertise that can talk you through how to determine what your business is valued at. Because I can tell you right now, the way that you think you calculate it and the way the internet tells you is totally different than probably what you're going to be. Plus, every industry is very different.
Yeah.
And so how that valuation happens. And so if I could give you any advice, no matter where you are in your business ownership, is to get a pulse on how that valuation works, because then you can sort of adjust it based on what's going on in your business whenever you happen to think about it. But it's probably the one thing that made this a whole lot easier on me than it would have taken a lot longer to get from contract to sale had I not had any idea what to do there.
Okay, so now what opportunities would you recommend for business owners after the sale? I know, please, take a step back and just kind of relax a little bit. But what after you get through that, I've been doing this for 30 or 40 years. What do I want to do in my next life? What would you recommend?
Oh my goodness. Well, I listen. It's funny. I listen to a lot of people talk about reading books, staying up on things, and I listen instead of reading. I'm not the best at sitting down and reading. I don't sit still, but I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts and things. And interestingly enough, one of the things that I was listening to today sort of re-solidified some things that I think are really important. You really have to tap into what makes you tick, what gets you juiced up. And for me, one of the things that juices me up is to help people understand processes, things, steps, things I've experienced. And so I like to do that. And so with mentoring and coaching at this stage of my life, the way that transitioned me is because I like to help people understand things like that and get information that they need. I'm so proud to be invited to be on this show because I really respect what you're doing here, because it very much speaks to that passion that I have. You know, when I said I was listening to a podcast, audiobook earlier, one of the things he referenced was Dr. Spock, and the Dr. Spock who was the pediatric psychologist, and how he transitioned into something, and everybody said, well, why are you doing that? And he said, because it's all about children, and I'm doing this because I have this passion for children. So in my next life, which sort of was an accident, maybe, I have been using...
maybe.
Okay. Well, it's funny how life happens, right? I've been using Mary Kay skincare for probably most of my adult life, and the lady I work with, I just absolutely adore. She's just a wonderful person, and she said, I want you to think about this because this business makes sense. And what I found is, and I said, oh, well, whatever. But what I found is it took that same passion that I have, because now I have people that work with me, my team, and also individuals, and helping people understand what they don't understand. That's really my passion, is getting there. And Title let me do that too, because I could make sure that you were protected, you understand the paperwork that you're signing, you're understanding what that process was. So it's kind of an interesting common thread. But for me, I would say find your passion, pull it together in your head, and then find something that makes you want to keep getting charged up in the morning. It's fun.
Well, that's true. But as entrepreneurs, most of us are doing things that we're really passionate about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The grind that you have to go through to keep it going, and to, like you said, if you have a team, you have to be passionate about it, because it takes a lot to, because you're the rah-rah person. You're the one, you're the coach. You're the one who's saying, okay, today we're doing blah, 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 blah.
That's
right?
Correct.
So in order to stay hyped all the time and being that person that is motivating your team, it's got to be a passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got to be a passion. So if you're doing a business that is not your passion, I'm going to say do a business that's your passion, because you go through the ups and downs of it.
That's true.
And if you don't feel it in your
gut, and you're not happy, you're not pushing through all the hard stuff,
exactly,
that you got to find something else. But there's a common thread in your life. So whatever that next thing is, find out what makes you happy.
That's true. Okay, so now, do you have a website?
I do. As I said, I do coaching, and so on my website, there's things for title agents, and there's also things for small business owners. It's ConnieFuksa.com. My last name is a little bit difficult, so it's Fuksa, ConnieFuksa.com. And on there I have, a lot of different tools. I do, as I said to you earlier, I do a lot of Facebook Live, and I talk about a lot of things because I like to share information. And so a lot of that's on that website. And then I also, write blogs about not motivational things, but thought-provoking things to make us think, and then also business kind of concepts. So a lot of that's on there, and then you can subscribe to things that we have that we're posting all the time.
Okay. Well, I want to say again, thank you so much. I met Connie today, actually. She was referred to me by a very close friend.
Yeah.
And when we network in business, when we trust our business associates, our business friends, it's all about networking. It's all about reaching out and touching so that we can really help, entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, people in business. And I spoke to you once, and I just graciously say thank you so much, because this was a lot of information that I don't know if anybody else would have been able to give me as much. Because it was so personal, you know what I mean? And it was a family business, a family-owned business, which really is heart-wrenching, you know what I mean? It's something that your family did for forever. And so for you to have to go through this, and then you can share it with me and my viewers, I just graciously, and I appreciate that so much.
I can't tell you how honored I am to have been invited.
Thank
our
you.
joint friend is somebody that I worked with for a long time. I have a lot of respect for, and is just an amazing person. And when she connected us, she had told me a little bit more about you, but when she connected us, I was just really so excited to be able to meet you because I've heard so much about you, and I was so honored to be asked to do this. So yeah, it was a tough thing to sell my business, but I was ready, and my family was okay with it, and so we were good. Yeah, it was good, but I just so honored I can't even tell you. So very thrilled to and very respectful of what you're doing here. I think it's amazing. So
thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I want you all to stay tuned for next week. I'm not exactly sure what the topic is going to be, but please just, if you know of someone who owns a business or someone who just needs help in the community when it comes down to life insurance retirement, you know how to get in contact with me, Karen at CaseyBakerandAssociates.com, okay? Or you can go and type something into Facebook Live because it's live on Facebook right now. And we will continue to give you as much information as I can find out there that I feel that will help in money, in life, in business. And have a great afternoon, and we will see you again next week.